Hello friends, welcome back to our channel. Today we are going to share an emotional story about a father and son. So grab a tissue because this is one story that will definitely touch your heart. When my father's silence spoke louder than words. I was 12 years old the first time I noticed my father's silence. Not the kind of silence that comes from anger or coldness, but the kind that carries an ocean of unspoken words. He was a man who rarely raised his voice, rarely lectured, rarely even scolded me. Instead, he carried his feelings in the quiet spaces between his actions. At the time, I thought his silence meant distance. But years later, I would come to realize that his silence was louder than any words he could have spoken. My father worked as a mechanic in a small workshop. His hands were always stained with oil and grease, and his clothes smelled faintly of iron and sweat. He left home before sunrise and often returned after dusk. I used to complain to my mother, asking why Dad never said much, why he never sat me down to talk like other fathers did. My mother would simply smile and say, "Your father speaks in ways you're not ready to understand yet." One evening, I came home from school frustrated. I had gotten into trouble for something I didn't even do, and when I told my father, I expected comfort, maybe advice, maybe even anger on my behalf. Instead, he just listened quietly, nodding slowly, his tired eyes fixed on mine. When I finished, he said nothing. He simply patted my shoulder and walked to his room. I remember slamming the door of my room that night, whispering to myself, why can't he just talk like a normal father? But time has a way of revealing truths slowly. When I turned 15, my father fell ill. His strong frame seemed to shrink, his steps slower, his hands weaker. It was then that I began to notice the little things, how he always left the last piece of bread for me at dinner. How he would sit awake at night waiting for me to return from a late study session. How he fixed my broken bicycle without ever mentioning it. He never said "I love you," but his silence was filled with a love so deep that words would have only weakened it. One night, I overheard my parents talking. My mother whispered, "You should tell him how much you've sacrificed for him." My father's quiet reply came like a gentle storm. "He doesn't need to know what I gave up. He just needs to live better than I did." Those words struck me harder than any lecture ever could. I realized that my father's silence wasn't emptiness. It was sacrifice. It was protection. It was love in its purest form. Years passed. I grew older, went to college, and eventually built a life of my own. But my father's silence followed me like a shadow, guiding me in ways I never fully understood. The most powerful memory came just before he passed away. I was sitting beside his hospital bed, struggling to find the right words. I wanted to thank him, to apologize, to say everything I had kept bottled inside. But before I could speak, he reached out with his worn, trembling hand, squeezed mine tightly, and closed his eyes. He didn't say a single word. But in that silence, I heard everything: his pride, his love, his unspoken goodbyes. Today, as I look back, I understand it all. My father didn't need to speak loudly to leave an echo in my heart. His silence taught me the meaning of strength, the depth of sacrifice, and the quiet power of love that doesn't demand recognition. And now, as a father myself, I find pieces of him in me. I still struggle with words sometimes, but when I tuck my child into bed or when I stay up late to make sure they are safe, I hear my father's silence speaking through me. Because sometimes, the loudest "I love you" isn't spoken, it's lived. Now let's talk about some of the themes this story explores. Fathers and sons have a unique bond, don't they? This story beautifully illustrates the complexities of that relationship. Can you relate to the narrator? I struggle to understand his father's silence and the eventual realization of the depth of his father's love and sacrifice. It's a journey many of us can resonate with. As the story unfolds, we see the father's quiet strength and sacrifice. Despite his hard work and the sacrifices he made, he never really spoke much about it. It was only later that the narrator realized the true meaning behind his father's actions. How many times have we missed the quiet sacrifices made by those closest to us? Let us take a moment to appreciate the unsung heroes in our lives who demonstrate their love through their actions. The theme of communication is also significant. The narrator's initial frustration stemmed from the lack of communication between him and his father. Fathers often think that lectures and constant talking are the best ways to communicate with their children, while sons often prefer a more subtle approach. It's a generational gap that can sometimes lead to misunderstandings. This story reminds us that communication isn't just about words. Sometimes it's about understanding the silence as well. Furthermore, this story touches upon the universal experience of growing up and the realization that comes with maturity. As the narrator matures, he gains a deeper understanding of his father's character and the sacrifices he made. It's a coming-of-age story in the truest sense. How many of us have looked back on our childhood experiences with a newfound perspective as adults? Share your thoughts below. This story also explores the power of love and its ability to transcend words. The father's love for his son is evident in his actions, even though he rarely expresses it verbally. It's a testament to the idea that actions often speak louder than words. How have you experienced or witnessed silent acts of love in your own life? Lastly, this story underscores the importance of family relationships and the impact they have on our lives. The relationship between the father and son is complex and multifaceted, characterized by both challenges and deep affection. It's a reminder to cherish our family bonds, for they are the threads that weave the tapestry of our lives. What role have your family members played in shaping who you are today? If you found this story touching, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. And if you have your own stories or experiences you'd like to share, comment below. We'd love to hear from you. And for more heartwarming tales, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.